Shalom. I'm Officer Luke with Israel United in Christ. Today we're going to go into the language of Vanuatu, which is Bislama. We're going to touch on the fact that this language was created in oppression, and it's a language of affliction. So we're going to read in an article by the Dreamstress. So let's get into it. All right, so the title of the article is Blackbirding and Bislama, Language and Culture in Vanuatu. I'm going to read the first paragraph. Vanuatu is a nation in the South Pacific made up of 8 main islands and 79 further small islands. The islands are a united nation not out of any shared original language or culture, but out of shared colonial history. The great European powers in the Pacific, those are the so-called white people, let's read on, in their infinite wisdom, decided these islands would make a governable grouping based on a map, not on any links between the people. So the article says there's no links between the people. In a moment, we're going to prove that there are links between the people. But let's scroll down in the article and read this. All right, here we go. It says, so we're going to read where it says Vanuatu's national language. Vanuatu's national language is Bislama, specifically because there are over 100 native languages, and because the Western colonial powers, England and France to be precise, so those are the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, the devil the Bible speaks of. That's who this is talking about. Shoved a random assortment of islands into one country without regard for any unity of culture and for one further terrible reason, blackbirding. So let's go into the Bible now. And we're going to read Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. So the Lord said that we would discontinue, be cut off from the heritage that he gave us. What is our heritage? Our nationality as the 12 tribes of Israel, our culture, the things that we eat, our language we will be cut off from. So he said he will cut us off from our heritage. Let's read on. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So God said that we will serve our enemies, the English and the French to be exact. So now let's go back into the article. All right, we're going to pick up where we left off at and then set next paragraph. Blackbirding is essentially slavery in the South Pacific. So blackbirding is slavery. All right, so let's read on. In the late 19th century, different European powers began developing industries in the Pacific that were dependent on large amounts of hard labor. So in the 19th century, that is the 1800s, and it was dependent on hard labor. Whose labor? Our labor. Now let's go back to the Bible, because it said that there was no culture that united us. But let's prove that we are united people, and that the only people on the face of the earth this happened to was to the 12 tribes of Israel. We're going to read Daniel chapter 9 and verse 11. The book of Daniel chapter 9 and verse 11. All Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us. Who's the us? It is the 12 tribes of Israel. It is you brothers and sisters in Vanuatu, the victims of blackbirding. And the curse, you can read about that in Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 68. So let's read on. The curse is poured out upon us. Therefore the curse is poured out upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him. And he hath confirmed his words, which he has spake against us and against our judges that judge us, by bringing upon us a great evil. What greater evil is it than to be taken from your home and to brought into slavery, aka blackbirding? All right, so let's read on. For under the whole heaven have not been done as has been done upon Jerusalem. So no one on the face of the earth, no the white man, the Chinese man, the Arab man, have been done like we have been done. The 12 tribes of Israel are the only people that have gone through this oppression and this affliction, this great evil. So let's go back to the article and read further on. So let's scroll down in the article. Okay, here we go. We're going to start where it says in the Pacific. In the Pacific Islands, most islanders had no desire to leave their idyllic homes, and blackbirders resorted to force. Islanders were tempted onto ships with promises of trade, or once Christianity had taken hold, called to revival meetings by blackbirders pretending to be missionaries. Do you notice Christianity had to deal with all our oppression all over the world? That is one of the things that the white man used. So you got to come out of those churches. So let's read on. Sometimes brute force was used to kidnap whole villages, not one or two people, but whole villages. So it said ships. Let's home in on where it says ships, and we're going to go to the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. This is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. So we just read about ships. Is this Egypt is talking about ancient Egypt? No. Let's find out what that Egypt means. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 6. Let's get it. Here's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 6. I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. So what is Egypt? Egypt is synonymous with bondage. Egypt, bondage, slavery, that all means the same thing. Blackbirding, as it was called in the South Pacific, all the same thing. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. So we will go into slavery again, but this time it will be by ships. By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, for slave men and slave women. And no man shall buy you, and no man will redeem us. Buy you is an old Quaker word for redeem. No man will redeem us. But it said our enemies. So let's be more precise. The English and the French are enemies, the so-called white man. All right, so let's jump over to verse 49, because it said they took whole villages. So guess who else was in those villages? Old and young. So verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. So it's giving you the sign of the nation, and it's telling you that they will come from the ends of the earth, meaning you would not have any connection with this people. So let's read on. As swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So you didn't understand the French. You didn't understand the English that they spoke. You did not understand these languages. So let's read on. Which thou shalt not understand, whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. So they didn't care how old you were or how young you were. They still oppressed you, killed you, and took you into slavery. And let's prove that further on in the next paragraph of the article. So let's read on. Those too young, old, or weak to work were sometimes tossed overboard, too far out to sea to swim back. So that's not showing any regard for the young or the old. They killed them. They tossed them overboard, knowing that they were too far, too young to swim back. So let's read on in this. In conditions on board, the ships were so horrific, so death rates were incredibly high. The fate, you know what this sounds like? It sounds kind of like the transatlantic slave trade too. The fate of those who did survive the initial journey wasn't much better. Working conditions on sugarcane and copra plantations were hard, and in the 10 mines, even worse. Read on. Along with poor housing, so it says along with the poor housing, poor food, and backbreaking labor, the one thing most places with a conscripted labor force had in common was a mass of people who didn't speak the same language, and an overseer who almost always spoke English. So this is the white man. Let's read on. The result was the beginnings of Bislama. So a language made in affliction and oppression. Let's go further on into this article. The one language all the workers heard and needed to understand a little to survive was English. So your survival depended on knowing English, a language of oppression. All right. Picking it up allowed them to communicate with each other and to follow the orders that were given. So Bislama is a language of oppression. But let's go into the Bible, because you might speak Bislama, but guess what's going to happen? The prophets of God are going to come to you and give you the word. Thus saith the Lord. So we're going to read Psalms chapter 19 and verse 3. This is the book of Psalms chapter 19 and verse 3. There is no speech or nor language where their voice is not heard. What voice is going to be heard? The voice of the prophets preaching the word to you, letting you know that you are the 12 tribes of Israel. Why is it going to be heard? Why are you going to get this word? Watch, this is why you have to get the word. This is why we have to give it to you. Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. So we're going to go to the book of Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Because God has commanded, Christ has commanded that we gather together as one nation. Not as Vanuatu, not as those from the South Pacific, not as Melanesian people, but as the 12 tribes of Israel. And in that gathering together, when Christ returns, will we be speaking Bislama? Watch this. We're going to jump over to chapter 3. This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3 and verse 9. For then will I turn to the people a pure language. So no, it won't be Bislama in that day. It will be a pure language. That language is Hebrew. So let's read on. That they may all call upon the name of the Lord, to serve him with one consent. We will be one body, one mind, of one mind in that day, under one king, and that is Christ. And we will be on one page. And we will not speak Bislama, but we will speak Hebrew. Thus saith the Lord. So I hope you got something out of this. We are Israel united in Christ. And with that, we say shalom. Dibaye,